Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's get stuck into a bit of crypto, shall we? But first, recognizing that Bitcoin actually hit the top of this trend line. So this has been a consolidation since the peak over here in March. Yeah, we've had lower highs, lower lows the whole way down. It's basically consolidation. And so the key is what I've been saying since, well, I suppose it was before the peak came in. It was around December really, where I was saying, let's just be careful, especially with altcoins as well. So let's be careful because it's very likely to consolidate throughout this year, and we can see that. Now, I think it's got to the point now where the consolidation should be getting close to coming to an end, if not already at an end. So yeah, get a rejection at a resistance, that's perfectly normal, perfectly acceptable. The question at this point is there enough evidence to suggest it coming all the way back down to the bottom of the trend line? So that's going to be the main thing to think about at this point now, because if you're going based on statistical likelihood of resistance to support, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, statistically, based on this particular consolidation formation, a lower low is likely. But luckily for us, we've got the help of momentum and stocks and other things as well. So let's just think about briefly. I know that I don't normally talk about this sort of stuff, but if you think about this, so they lowered rates by 0.5%. This sort of thing normally takes a bit of time to kick in. Just because they lowered rates doesn't mean that everybody borrows on day one, trucks money into the market. That's not how it works. It does take a bit of time usually. You wouldn't expect to see the fruits of that reduced interest rate until probably next year, really. But it does exist. So we're seeing. Well, we should be starting to see some of that liquidity move back into the market. On top of that, we've consolidated for the appropriate amount of time all throughout the summer into the fourth quarter where we are right now, which is really what we're expecting to see break out. Now, there's one other thing that we really want to see, and we will probably get it by Monday morning, which is going to be this conversion baseline cross on the weekly, which should give us a trend signal on the itchy cloud. Hopefully, if we're at this price or higher, we will get that. And it's at that point that you will see a new trend form, a breakout of the consolidation. So a lot is to be confirmed on the higher term timeframes. Now, talking to higher term timeframes, again, just to put the bullish point across, we do have the higher low that was formed on the money flow index, which normally spots an all-time low, bang, bang, all-time low, bang, bang, all-time low, bang, bang, all-time low. It also gets the tops. So we've seen that already, and that actually came in at this level around here, which was the candle body low, 54,000. I know we had wicks lower than that, but it's the candle bodies that count because that's what solidifies the candle and the money flow index, and we got the higher low. With the lower low on price action. So that is in keeping with the way that this normally looks when finding the low. So there's evidence enough to say that the low is in. But if you're going to get rejected from this level here, where are we going to come down to? How long is it going to take? Or is it going to break straight through? So if we're talking Bollinger Band strategy, we're talking a pullback maybe back down to the 20 moving average, maybe the 10 exponential. So we might be looking for Bitcoin to pull back by about 5-6%. If we take that to the daily, what do we see? Well, around 63,000, like we were saying yesterday, which was based on those 4-hourly candle bodies. These over here, we were thinking maybe that's where we come down to. Now we shot all the way up to the top. If we do come down, then yeah, this is still absolutely on the cards. So is this area here. Also, so is this area. There's a lot of areas of support on horizontals and moving averages that we could go by to find the next higher low, which would be the last one that kicks us up and beyond that consolidation. Finally breaking out, basically. Momentum on the daily turned up. No bearish divergence on this. No bearish divergence. Well, actually, there is a bit of bearish divergence on the money flow index, so maybe we can't go too deep on that. Tiny bit, single drive on the 4-hourly RSI. Normally 3 drives will do it, but nothing on the money flow index. So there's still plenty of opportunity for this to get picked up from the first area, and that'll be the 4-hourly, which is basically 66,150. That would be where the first area where you'll be looking to see it get picked up, moved up, and then break out. So Bitcoin is showing mixed signals, but I would say despite being at resistance, and again, never really buy a resistance, it's kind of crazy, especially a major one like this. So we are at resistance, so just be careful, about buying that or what to expect at a resistance. the majority, if you were to, like I say, you throw it all into one big melting pot, stir it around, the majority of the signals and signs and indications on the charts and outside of the charts suggest that it's more likely to break out this time round than come all the way back down. So let's have a think about stocks. So stocks on the pre-market did take a little hit yesterday. No big surprise that it all took a hit at the same time. So far, stocks are down about 1%, and we're below a 20 moving average on the 4-hourly. On the daily, you can see yesterday's candle was pretty significant, but we're getting picked up already, technically ever so slightly in the green. It's very early days. Again, it's the pre-market, so we're not going to get too excited about anything that we see in the pre-market, especially this early. Let's have a think about the Dixie. What's the Dixie doing? So the Dixie has bounced massively, as we kind of anticipated, and it's moved right into a death cross on the daily. So if you're going to get a rejection from anywhere, a death cross would be the place to expect it. It's the opposite of what you'd expect on a golden cross. So a death cross is the opposite, so bringing us back down to where we started from and then some. If you take it over to a weekly as well, you can see that the weekly is ever so slightly started to move above the 20 weekly, moving into the 50 exponential moving average as well here. And we got that move from the 200 simple. So, this is where people were thinking it was going to break down from here. I said it's more likely to have a bounce, and if we're going to get a bounce, it should take us into this area here, where we're ever so slightly above it. 0.1% of a dollar here. So it's all right. For it to wiggle up a little higher, but because the daily's doing a death cross retest, you could anticipate a rejection from here or from here, which is 103.77. So I'm not suggesting that the dollar breaks out and continues up from here, but if it does, then things would actually look pretty bad. Things would get pretty nasty at that stage, I'd say. So I think today might be one of those days where we just sit back and allow for the market to tell us a little bit more. But hand on heart, I would say with the Dixie at resistance, and there's an enormous amount of support all the way down on Bitcoin before we get to this $50,000 zone, which I'm not suggesting is going to get hit. I think we're more likely to get picked up before $63,000 on Bitcoin, and then that should take us up again and then break out at that stage. That's the most realistic, I would say, scenario to allow to unfold. So we've got the horizontal, we've got the 20, we've got the 21 moving average. They're all sitting around here, as well as the 200 simple moving average as well. So massive amount of supports around that 63 to $63,300 zone. So all eyes on there. Now, there's not a great deal in boiling down altcoins too much. We're still consolidating, it's the same as Bitcoin really, in a descending triangle formation. We're above most moving averages on the total too here, with supports around $908 billion. So I'll be looking for supports on this to get picked up. In fact, we saw that more or less yesterday, to be honest with you. So we might see a double tap on that today. I don't want to see it closing below 900 billion on the total too. And the dominance chart has made a new local high yesterday and today. So we're looking for this to probably move back up. But if there's some hopium to apply to this chart, it would be this. Let me show you. So we've got money flow index. It counts for a little bit, to be honest with you. We back tested this on the stream last night. So we're moving into the overheated read above 80. The last time we saw an overheated read above 80 was over here, which actually spotted the major Altseason. Really, it's just coming smashing all the way back down. Huge Altseason went on for it was amazing. Those were the days. Those were the days. Prior to that, we had this overheated read, which also found a significant high where we had a long period of Altseason. Might not have felt it for many people, but it certainly was. You can see that recognized on the dominance chart. So again, overheated read, overheated read, overheated read, and then over here, it's not quite so good, but there was a couple of overheated reads that led to, I suppose, a peak. It would have been the second overheated read that led to a peak there. And again, another one over here, which led to a significant peak. So trying to navigate the money flow index for this type of rejection is difficult. But back testing it every time, or almost every time, should I say, we move into the overheated read, we do get a significant rejection, which results in an Altseason, and actually quite a dramatic one in all fairness. The only difference this time is that this chart has been a down-only chart really for a very long time. You know, this altcoins were nothing really over here, and then obviously none of this really counts. And it was born into a death cross. You know, 200 exponential here, 200 simple, 50 down here. It's a death cross scenario. This was the first time it ever received golden crosses, and it's got a double golden cross. So with that comes strength, in all fairness. So it's different. It's definitely a different setup. But we do have some kind of symmetry with these reads over here. So I'm not saying, you know, put your life savings on it, but it is there, it is present, it's worth recognizing that this is all trading's about, really. Looking at, you know, similarities, patterns, to work out if there's a chance that it's going to go one way or the other. And there is a chance, let's put it like that. We are sitting more or less at a support. It's rough and ready, but it is more or less a resistance. It is rough and ready, and we are also having these. So look, there's a chance. There is a chance of an alt season still. I'm not going to rule it out. Absolutely not. It would be silly to rule it out when you have these setups on the chart. It's not the greatest thing. It's definitely different, but it does exist, and it's worth thinking about. I suppose the only other thing we can really think about is what is Ethereum doing. So Ethereum on the weekly, obviously looking back, we've got support on this 200 weekly, which is great. You're not going to pick up pace until you really start closing above 2,900. The daily's weaker than most, obviously still deep down inside that death cross without retesting the 200 exponential. You'd even expect a rejection from there, so 2,800, and this one's up here at 3,000. So plenty of areas to be rejected here. But look at the volume spike. You know, so we had this breakout, and a lot of altcoins do look like this. We were looking at loads of them last night on the stream. There was lots of the money flow index breaking out, and again, it's reasonable to assume that volume precedes price action. You know, it's like a bath overflowing with money. So that's basically what's happened here. We overflowed with the money, and then we broke out, and effectively had a nice breakout on Ethereum, surprisingly big. You know, bigger than some of the other altcoins, which, you know, even took me by surprise, despite buying loads of Ethereum a couple of weeks ago, considering it to be a relatively safe bet. So Ethereum doesn't have a very good relationship to moving averages and trend, but it does when it comes to volume, and it's also relatively safe based on the weekly, just completing, again, this golden cross retest over and over and over and over again, which, if you're going to expect a move, it'll be a V-shaped recovery, is what you'd expect. But this is a weekly, so this could take weeks or months. And it could also fail, because we're at the mercy of Bitcoin. So if you haven't guessed, I'm still relatively bullish on this market overall. But you can't be too bullish when you're pushing a resistance. So don't be surprised to see a pullback on Bitcoin of like 5 or 6% before we get picked back up and then have another attempt to break out from that resistance. So I am particularly bullish, I have to say. You know, the evidence is there for a breakout, but until we see the breakout, we're at the mercy of the resistance. And, you know, the rule, expect rejection at resistance. There is no way for me to say it's going to go straight up forever. Moves up, moves down. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. You need to do both, otherwise you'll die. So look, the charts are shaping up relatively nicely, and I believe we're about to go into second gear for the most part. So let's keep our eyes peeled on these charts. Let's see how Bitcoin behaves. We'll see how the dominance chart behaves, and it will probably take a couple of weeks, I reckon, for us to really know. And also we've got to see how stocks behave, because that could also pose a bit of a nasty problem for all involved. Right, I'll leave it with you there. So hopium based on technical analysis, certainly, but the key will be the breakout, and then the breakout probably for Bitcoin will be pretty significant, I'd say. Right, thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.